Part 10. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 91. Chapter 91 Weaving, 4th Update. Zhang Yun wrote, "This umbrella was also lent to us by the shopkeeper. When the rain stops, I will find an opportunity to give it to the shopkeeper." Zhang Yunchi shook off the rainwater from his umbrella and placed it under the eaves. Zhang Yunmian and Xian both went over to take a look curiously. "This is an umbrella, it's so beautiful." They don't have umbrellas at home, so they feel strange when they see them. "When I went to the market before, there was a stall selling umbrellas. People were not allowed to look at them unless they wanted to buy them. Looking very strong. It was so windy outside, no matter how hard it blew, it didn't break the frame." Zhang Yunhua thought that when he went to the town before, he saw all the ladies holding oil paper umbrellas in the town, and they all looked very pretty. She looked at it and wanted to touch it, but resisted for fear of breaking it. Zhang Ziluo saw that her younger brothers and sisters liked umbrellas very much, and she also knew that she didn't even have an umbrella at home since she was a child. When it rains, there is nothing to take shelter from. At most, use a piece of oil paper to block your hair. Zhang Ziluo can make oil paper umbrellas, but oil paper umbrellas are all made of bamboo. Bamboo may not be available in their northern cold land. Generally, there are more bamboos in the south. But I don't have an umbrella at home, so it's very inconvenient to go out when it rains. Zhang Ziluo thought for a while and said, "Mom and Dad, do you know where we can find bamboo here?" Yes, she thought for a while and shook his head, "I really don't know where to find bamboo." "Ziluo, do you want to use bamboo?" Zhang Xiangchuan said, "Ziluo, if you use bamboo, Dad will ask more about it later." Zhang Ziluo nodded and said, "Well, if we have bamboo, Mom and Dad, with Dad's skills, we can make oil paper umbrellas by ourselves." As soon as they heard about making oil paper umbrellas, everyone looked in disbelief. Zhang Yunmian and Xian both looked at Sister A with admiring eyes, thinking that Sister A was so awesome. Ye and Zhang Xiangchuan looked at each other and felt that it was really smart for their daughter to get married. They didn't ask any more questions. "Sister, can you make oil paper umbrellas?" Zhang Yunchi couldn't believe it. Zhang Ziluo said, "I once saw an old craftsman making it. I probably know how to do it, but I haven't done it myself. Maybe my father can make it?" Zhang Yunzhen hurriedly said, "If I go to the dock more often and ask around, I might know where the bamboo is." Zhang Ziluo said, "If there is no bamboo, you can look for palm trees near the mountain and cut some brown bark to make a coir raincoat. At least you can use the coir raincoat to protect yourself from the rain when you go out on rainy days." As soon as Zhang Ziluo mentioned coir raincoat, everyone was stunned. They have never thought about making coir raincoats, and they don't know what a palm tree is. Zhang Ziluo then described the appearance of the palm trees in detail. In fact, making the coir raincoat is simple once you get the palm tree. There is no complicated process, but it takes time to sew. But parents, brothers, and sisters can make it if they have time. It is always more convenient to have a raincoat at home to protect you from the rain. Especially in spring when there is a lot of rain, you can't just go out when it rains. Hearing what Zhang Ziluo said, the whole family was very excited. Especially Zhang Yunzhen and Zhang Yunmian wished that the rain would stop quickly so that they could go to the mountains to look for palm trees. "If it rains, our cloth shoes will easily get wet. You can make straw sandals and wear them when going out." Zhang Ziluo can make straw sandals. There happened to be some cattails at home, so Zhang Xiangchuan and Ye took some out. Zhang Ziluo taught the family how to weave straw sandals. The people in the village are very handy, and they all knit baskets, straw mats and other things themselves. So Zhang Ziluo taught us how to weave straw sandals, and everyone quickly learned it. The family was happily making straw sandals while talking. The soles of braided straw shoes are thicker, So you don't have to worry about rainy days. The cloth shoes of this era were also the shoes that everyone usually kept for themselves, and everyone was reluctant to wear them. If it gets dirty and torn on a rainy day, everyone will feel sad. Wearing straw sandals is different. Just do it after you break it. Moreover, cattail grass is strong and tough, and will not break easily after being woven. Time passed little by little, and the sky gradually became darker. The rain outside has gradually become lighter. Zhang Ziluo was immersed in handicrafts and temporarily forgot all the things in the outside world. The Kui family in Donghe village. Mrs. Kui was very worried when she saw the heavy rain. Of course Mrs. Kui's mind was filled with Zhang Ziluo, and she almost forgot that Kui Hejin had to go home after class. Although Ziluo is not in a hurry to go home, it's raining heavily. Will she not be able to come back at night? Mrs. Kui is still a little uncomfortable with Zhang Ziluo not coming back. She felt that when Ziluo was at home on weekdays, she had a backbone and strength in everything she did. Ziluo returned to her parents' home, and she felt that she had no energy to do anything. I don't know when the rain will stop. Mrs. Kui was busy with the work in her hands and talking to herself. In the evening, the rain gradually subsided a lot, and Kui Hejin went home under an umbrella. He's back. Mrs. Kui looked up excitedly and saw Kui Hejin. She stopped her excitement and said, "You're back." After saying that, he lowered his head and continued working. Kui Hejin's expression was clear, and the frosty and snowy color under the picturesque eyes became lighter. "Mother." Kui Hejin's final note is soft, as if there are unfinished words. Mrs. Kui said, "What's wrong?" "Mom is not feeling well. It's raining and cold. Please put on some extra clothes." Mrs. Kui said, "Mother will take care of herself. If you have this intention, please be more considerate to Ziluo, and mother will feel relieved." Kui Hejin's expression changed slightly, but what's wrong with Ziluo? Before Mrs. Kui could say anything, Kui Hejin had already stepped into the house and did not see Zhang Ziluo. Kui Hejin's picturesque eyes had a flickering light, as if there was a hint of coldness. Mrs. Kui looked at her son and knew that he was not as indifferent to Ziluo as he appeared. She said, "After lunch, Ziluo went to her parents' house. I told her not to come back in a hurry, but Ziluo also said she would come back for dinner. But I didn't expect it to rain heavily, and she didn't bring an umbrella. I was wondering if she would stay at her parents' house overnight. I don't feel anything bad about it on weekdays, but I'm really not used to it when Ziluo isn't at home." Mrs. Kui babbled and looked at the rain outside. Although the rain had lightened up, she wouldn't be able to come back without an umbrella. "You said that if Ziluo comes back in the rain and is soaked by the rain, she will easily catch a cold." Hearing what his mother said, Kui Hejin calmed down, picked up the umbrella he brought back from school, and stepped into the rain. "Hejin, where are you going?" Kui Hejin did not look back, and his eyes seemed to contain thousands of stars. He said calmly, "Mother, I will take Ziluo home." Kui Hejin is holding an umbrella, with an aura of pure elegance around him. His voice was clear and low alcohol, like running water hitting rocks, moist and deep, drifting away with the wind in the rain, making it impossible to distinguish his emotions. End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 92. Chapter 92 Small profits but quick turnover. First update. After Kui Hejin finished speaking, he went out holding an umbrella. Mrs. Kui suddenly came to her senses and said quickly, "Bring something with you, you can't go empty-handed." Kui Hejin held a bag of jujube cakes in his hand and said, "I bought this from the town." Mrs. Kui breathed a sigh of relief. Ziluo went back to her parents' house to bring some things in the afternoon. It was not appropriate for Hejin to pick up someone and bring too many things. Bringing random gifts represented a little bit of sincerity. Mrs. Kui watched Kui Hejin go into the rain, thinking that Hejin still cared about Jiluo. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought jujube cakes home. This must be the jujube cake brought to Jiluo. Her son is cold on the outside and hot on the inside, and would not say anything even if he cares about someone. Jiangjia, Xingshan village. Zhang Ziluo knitted a straw sandal at a very fast speed. Xian looked at the straw sandals and exclaimed in surprise, "Wow, sister, the straw sandals are so beautiful." Xian has never seen such straw sandals. Zhang Yunmian was also very excited when he saw it. If you have straw sandals to wear on the mountain, you don't have to wear cloth shoes, and you don't have to worry about them wearing out. When she went up the mountain with her third sister, she was very careful wearing Niangna's shoes, for fear of being scratched and torn. Because I am too careful, there are wild products in some places, so I cannot go there to pick them. These straw sandals look very strong, and she can move freely on the mountain. And the soles are thick, so you are not afraid of any thorns under your feet. Zhang Ziluo said, "These shoes are relatively large. I made them for my father. I want him to try them on his feet and see how they feel." Her father usually walks with a limp and has trouble keeping his feet strong. Wearing a pair of stable shoes would help him walk better. Zhang Xiangchuan and Ye were also weaving straw sandals in their hands. However, they have just learned it, their movements are relatively slow, and they have only knitted a little. Looking at the finished straw sandals, they were all amazed. Zhang Xiangchuan watched his daughter hand him the shoes, and his heart suddenly felt hot and he had an indescribable feeling. I feel that my daughter has grown up, which is both happy and sad. Zhang Yunmian looked at him expectantly and said, "Dad, try it on quickly." "How do you feel?" Zhang Yunmian was talking and knitting in his hands. Yes, Zhang Yunshu, Zhang Yun painting, Zhang Yunzhen, they all looked at Zhang Xiangchuan. Zhang Xiangchuan smiled and said, "Okay, let's put it on and take a look." With that said, Zhang Xiangchuan put it on. The size is just right, it's quite comfortable, and it doesn't hurt my feet at all. Zhang Ziluo said, "Dad, get up and take a walk." Zhang Xiangchuan then stood up and walked around on the ground. They were all amazed and exclaimed, "I didn't expect that the woven straw sandals are so comfortable to wear. The soles of the feet are not hard and have a soft feeling." Zhang Ziluo said with a smile, "On weekdays when it rains, you can wear straw sandals for activities, so you don't have to worry about getting your shoes wet." Yes, she smiled happily and said, "We, Ziluo, are still clever enough to come up with this method." Originally, she was thinking about buying some cloth and giving a pair of shoes to her family. It takes a lot of cloth to carry a pair of shoes. Fabric is so expensive, so Ye thinks he can save as much as he can. Zhang Yunzhen knitted his hands much faster and said, "In this way, my second brother and I can go up the mountain to chop firewood wearing straw sandals. And in summer, it's cool to wear straw sandals." Zhang Yunshu thought for a moment and said, "Sister, can we sell the straw sandals we have made at the market? There are many people walking barefoot in the nearby villages. Especially the children, who play barefoot on the street. The main reason is that some families do not know how to wear shoe soles, and some family members think that shoes are a waste of cloth and do not allow them to wear them. There are also very few people selling shoes because they are just the right size." Speaking of this, Zhang Ziluo was also stunned. She really hadn't thought about this. The second brother is right. Dad and Mom, you can also knit more straw sandals on weekdays. When the market is held in Yanglia village, you can also set up a stall to sell straw sandals. This thing has no cost. You only need to use some cattails. The price is cheaper. Small profits but quick turnover, you can also earn some copper coins. Upon hearing this, everyone became energetic. Zhang Yunzhen hurriedly said, "There are a lot of cattails, you can make as many straw sandals as you want." Zhang Yunhu lowered his head and whispered, "I have learned." I will make up more on weekdays. Zhang Yunmian was very excited when he thought that he could make money to support his family. He said, I can do it too. I also make up more. When I go to the market, I sell straw sandals with my parents. Everyone expressed that they could edit more. Zhang Ziluo thought for a while and said, this thing can be easily learned by those who are skilled in taking it apart, so I suggest you, parents, to knit more of it on weekdays and sell it together. This thing has no cost. The price is cheaper, and there should be a lot of people buying it. And once you learn it and become proficient, you can knit a pair of shoes in a short time. Zhang Yunchu and the others were very happy. Dad made bellows, but they didn't know how to do it, and they couldn't help much. But they can help by making straw sandals. They are happy if they can do something for the family and help their parents. As if thinking of something, Ye said, Ziluo, everyone's feet are different in size. The size of the knitting is not suitable and it is not easy to sell. Zhang Ziluo said, Mom, you can make some more shoes that children can wear. Since most children in the village are barefoot, it means they also need shoes. If the straw sandals are cheap, many people will be willing to spend some money to buy a pair of shoes. The kids wear it. Besides, the straw sandals are strong and durable, so you don't have to worry about them getting worn out, and they won't affect your daily work. In fact, many elders in the village think that children's feet grow very quickly, so it is not cost-effective to provide them with a special pair of shoes. So much so that many children are barefoot. Yeshi nodded and said, that's the truth, then just do it according to the size of half-sized shoes. Just when Zhang Ziluo was about to knit her third pair of shoes, she suddenly thought of Kui Hejin. It is raining lightly outside and the sky is getting dark. I don't know how to get home after class at Kui Hejin Academy. While thinking about this, a gentle knock on the door suddenly came from outside. Xuan's ears were particularly keen. He raised his head and said, Mom and Dad, there is a knock on the door. Ye was stunned for a moment. It's raining at this time, who will come? Although she was confused, Ms. Ye still stood up and prepared to open the door. Zhang Xiangchuan said, maybe there is something in the village that needs help. Go and have a look. Zhang Xiangchuan was thinking that someone knocking on the door on a rainy day might have something urgent to do. Zhang Yun wrote, Mom and Dad, it's still raining outside. Let me go out and take a look. Speaking, Zhang Yunshu picked up the umbrella he had brought from the blacksmith shop and took it out. The courtyard door was open. As soon as Zhang Yunshu walked out of the courtyard and walked around the wall facing the door, he suddenly saw Kui Hejin at the door. He was suddenly surprised, and he shouted uncertainly, brother-in-law. Kui Hejin responded warmly, second brother, is your sister at home? Zhang Yunshu nodded and said, sister is at home, brother-in-law, come in quickly. Zhang Yunshu guessed that his brother-in-law should come to take his sister back. As he spoke, Zhang Yunshu called out to his family, Mom, Dad, sister, and brother-in-law are here. When Zhang Ziluo heard the sound, her hand movements paused, then she raised her head and looked towards the yard. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Space Doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 93. Chapter 93 His Wife, Second Update. Zhang Ziluo looked up and saw people holding oil paper umbrellas approaching slowly from the rain and fog. He is like an ink painting in the hazy rain and fog, unfolding quietly, with an ethereal atmosphere. The wind blew slowly through the rain, with a cool whistling sound. The wind picked up the corners of his clothes and fluttered, making his figure look more like an orchid or jade tree. When Zhang Ziluo looked at him, she felt like she was seeing the spring rain of apricot blossoms all over the sky. Her eyes trembled, and her breathing was slightly suffocated. When Kui Hejin slowly approached and looked at Zhang Ziluo, his picturesque and delicate eyebrows were slightly narrowed, and the tail of his eyes moved with a hint of charm. Seeing that Zhang Ziluo was not wet in the rain or uncomfortable, Kui Hejin breathed a sigh of relief. Then politely greeted Zhang Xiangchuan and Ye. Looking at the noble son-in-law in front of them, Zhang Xiangchuan and Ye both looked in a daze. It was actually the elegance of this man's movements that made them so stunned that they almost couldn't recover. "He hibiscus is here, come in quickly, it's raining outside. Have you been caught in the rain? Just come, you don't need to bring anything. Ziluo has brought something with her when she comes back." Brother-in-law. Zhang Ziluo's younger brothers and sisters also called Kui Hejin happily. "Last time, my brother-in-law told them a lot of stories, explained knowledge to them, and was very gentle. They all liked this brother-in-law." Kui Hejin spoke to everyone in a leisurely manner. "Be well educated from beginning to end." Ye nodded secretly in her heart. If the Kui family had not been convicted, such a person would indeed be a match for Ziluo. Zhang Ziluo was worried about Kui Hejin's health and worried that he would catch a cold, so she poured him a cup of hot water and handed it to him. "Drink a cup of hot water first to warm your body." "Okay, thank you madam." Hearing the word wife, Zhang Ziluo's fingers trembled slightly and she almost lost her grip on the water glass. Just as Kui Hejin took it, their fingers accidentally touched, and Zhang Ziluo quickly retracted her hand as if she was electrocuted. "Lady." He never called himself that. Is it because she is called that in front of her parents? But this is good, because her parents will think that Kui Hejin cares about her, that they have a good relationship, and they will feel more at ease about her life in her husband's family. Seeing the good relationship between her son-in-law and her daughter, Ms. Ye and the others laughed until their eyes were slits. Hurry and warmly greeted Kui Hejin, asked him to sit down, and prepared to cook dinner. Kui Hejin said softly, "Father and mother, you don't have to work anymore. I'll take my wife home. We can just go home and have dinner." Kui Hejin also knew that the conditions of his father-in-law and mother-in-law's family were not very good. If he cooked some meals to entertain him, it would probably bring a burden to them. So Kui Hejin thought about taking Zhang Ziluo home for dinner. Zhang Ziluo also hurriedly said, "Mom and Dad, while it's not very dark yet and the rain is light, let's go home first. If we lose time and the rain gets heavy, it will be difficult to go back. It may not affect anything if she goes home alone. But with Kui Hejin here, his parents, brothers and sisters will always be more restrained. Moreover, my parents will definitely serve them well with white noodles and delicious dishes, and they will also be busy for a while." Zhang Ziluo doesn't want her parents to be so busy. The reason why she returned to her parents' home was to see her parents, brothers and sisters, share happy things with them, and talk about building a house. Now that everything is said and done, it's time to go back. Otherwise Mrs. Kui would be worried and anxious. Looking at Kui Hejin and Zhang Ziluo's insistence, Ye could only prepare some things for them before letting them go back. "It's not something good, just homemade pickles. These are some small fish that your second and fourth brothers went to catch in the river. I pickled them and made them into dried fish. You can eat them every day." Ye wanted to pack some noodles, rice, and beans, but Zhang Ziluo refused to take them. "Those are the food for the family. My parents, brothers, and sisters still need to eat." However, Zhang Ziluo knew that her parents would feel bad if she didn't take anything, so she took some pickles and pickled dried fish. When Kui Hejin took Zhang Ziluo back under an umbrella, Zhang Ziluo turned her head and looked at him and said, "You don't feel uncomfortable, right?" Zhang Ziluo was worried that Kui Hejin had caught a cold. Kui Hejin whispered, "It's okay, the wind and rain will not affect it." Zhang Ziluo hesitated for a moment and then said, "Well, thank you for coming to pick me up. Although Xingshan village is close to Donghe village, it still takes more than half an hour to walk, which is an hour. What's more, the roads that have been raining are muddy and have puddles, making it really difficult to walk. Kui Hejin paused, frowned, and said seriously, "You are my wife, and it is my duty to come and take you home, so there is no need to say thank you." After a pause, Kui Hejin sighed softly and said, "You were not like this when I carried you back that day." This girl has become unfamiliar with him. Zhang Ziluo observed Kui Hejin's expression and suddenly smiled and said, "Then I ask you to carry me now, will you still carry me?" Kui Hejin said, "You are right. When I walk with you on my back, I won't get caught in the rain easily." As he said that, Kui Hejin found a clean stone and said to Zhang Ziluo, "Step on it and I'll carry you." It was difficult for him to squat down on a rainy day, so he asked Zhang Ziluo to step on the rocks and get on his back. Zhang Ziluo wanted to refuse, but when she looked at the clothes on the other side of him, they were all soaked. In order to hit her with the umbrella as much as possible, his clothes got wet. Zhang Ziluo took it back when she wanted to refuse and said, "People in the village will say I'm pretentious when they see it." "You fool, don't care what others say." Zhang Ziluo raised the corners of her mouth slightly, stepped on the big stone, and climbed up Kui Hejin's back. Just like this, she held the umbrella and Kui Hejin carried her home step by step. At this moment, Zhang Ziluo felt a little regretful and said, "You are not in good health, but I asked you to carry me on your back." Kui Hejin had no choice but to laugh, and lowered his voice and said, "You are very light, but I still have the strength to carry you." Hearing Kui Hejin's gentle voice, Zhang Ziluo's tense spirit relaxed and she said, "By the way, did you buy the jujube cake?" After Kui Hejin took out the jujube cake in front of her younger brothers and sisters, she saw their bright eyes. Kui Hejin explained, it was sent by a student's parents. He didn't want to take it, but the student's parents insisted on giving it, saying that he could bring it to his wife to eat. "I told my parents about building a house for our family. My parents said they would come over to help, but I refused." Kui Hejin said softly, "My father's legs are not good, my brothers and sisters are still young, and my mother needs to stay at home to take care of them." "You did the right thing." Zhang Ziluo's expression changed, and she felt that he understood her unfinished thoughts and comforted her in turn. She was touched in her heart, and her hands holding Kui Hejin's shoulders tightened slightly, and she called him softly, "Husband." Some emotions welled up in Zhang Ziluo's heart, and she said slightly sourly, "You are so good to me." End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 94. In that ancient life, he was so kind to her. There is still this life, even if he has no memory, he is still careful and gentle. Hearing the special tone in Zhang Ziluo's voice, Kui Hejin paused slightly and sighed, "Fool, is this what you call it? How can this be considered good for her?" Zhang Ziluo didn't explain much. She thought of Chen Huidi in the morning, and actually wanted to ask him if he had ever been nice to others before. How to say that he was in the capital before, and he was also the prince of the country. His appearance, family background, and abilities were all there. There must have been many crazy bees and Longdi like Chen Huidi flocking to him. I don't know what his reaction was. He should also be cold, right? Although she was curious, Zhang Ziluo still resisted asking. Things between them are now somewhat relaxed, but it seems not yet appropriate to ask these questions. Besides, what happened in the capital was such a big ups and downs after being exiled, so he probably didn't want to recall it. Zhang Ziluo changed the subject and said, "The pickles my mother gave me are pickled with mustard nuts. I like to eat them very much." Zhang Ziluo felt a warm feeling in her heart while holding the pickles made by her mother. "It seems that holding this will ease my concern for home." "Well, if you like to eat it, you can pick it up at home. It's different, it tastes different." Kui Hejin probably understood. He said softly, "It doesn't matter. When you have time in the future, you can go back to see your parents often. If you want me to accompany you, I will go back with you. Hearing these words, Zhang Ziluo's heart and lake seemed to be hit by stones, causing ripples and waves. Because of his understanding and support, she felt very comfortable and warm. Although she was married, she did not think that she had no relationship with her natal family. Her parents raised her up, and her brothers and sisters loved and respected her. How could she say that she didn't care about them at all after she got married? There will be concern in my heart, which is an involuntary feeling. The two of them talked like this and soon arrived home. Mrs. Kui felt relieved when she saw that they were back. It's good to be back. I just made a meal. Are you hungry? Let's eat. Zhang Ziluo washed her hands first, then went into the room and found a set of clean clothes in the cabinet, and said to Kui Hejin, "You change your clothes first, your left sleeve is soaked through." It was also when Kui Hejin held the umbrella that it was tilted towards her at the beginning, so half of his shoulders got wet. Kui Hejin washed his hands and changed clothes in the house. Zhang Ziluo cut slices. Mrs. Kui didn't understand. "Ziluo, do you want to soak in water to ward off the cold?" Village people generally use slices to ward off cold. It's just that is rarely used in stir-fries on weekdays. It is also used by Zhang Ziluo when cooking. Only then did Mrs. Kui know that slices can also remove fishy odors. So there is always at home for later use. Zhang Ziluo said, "Well, mother, water can dispel the cold. It will be better if you let your husband drink a little first." She put the sliced ginger in a bowl, then poured hot water into the bowl, and Kui Hejin could drink it after a while. "Mom, you drink too." She also put 2 pieces of slices in Mrs. Kui's and her own bowls. "Okay, let's all drink." Mrs. Kui knew that Ziluo was attentive, and seeing how she cared so much about Kui Hejin, Mrs. Kui's heart was touched. After Kui Hejin changed clothes and came out, Mrs. Kui said, "Hejin, drink the water quickly. Ziluo is still worried about you, so she made you a brew early and drank it to dispel the cold." Kui Hejin stared at her with lowered eyes, and there seemed to be a flickering light spreading in his eyes, as if they were covered with a gentle moonlight luster, and there was a gentle breath flowing around. Kui Hejin looked at Zhang Ziluo's hand. "Does your hand still hurt?" When Zhang Ziluo went to her parents' place in the afternoon, in order to prevent her parents from worrying, she removed the cloth. The wound was very small, and after applying some medicine, it was fine. She knitted straw sandals all afternoon and didn't feel anything. "It doesn't hurt anymore." "Ah, that's good." The family sits down to eat. After drinking the water, Mrs. Kui said, "Don't tell me, after drinking it, my whole body feels warm." Zhang Ziluo said, "When the weather gets cold in the future, you can make some water and drink it." After finishing the meal and cleaning up, Zhang Ziluo took out 2 pairs of straw sandals and said, "Mom, these are for you. This pair is for my husband." Mrs. Kui was stunned when she saw the shoes handed over by Zhang Ziluo. "It looks very nice and delicate, but it is woven." Mrs. Kui was very surprised. "Ziluo, did you buy these shoes?" Zhang Ziluo explained, "Mom, I knitted them myself. You can wear these shoes for easy movement on rainy days or when you go up the mountain." "Oh, Ziluo, you are so handy." At first glance, you may think that straw sandals are rough and unsightly. But the straw sandals woven by Ziluo are beautiful and exquisite. It makes people unable to put it down even if they hold it in their hands. Mrs. Kui couldn't wait to put it on and try it on. She walked around on the ground, her eyes filled with joy. "It's really good. As long as Mom likes it." "Of course I like them. They are soft and comfortable to wear when I go out on a rainy day. I don't have to worry about wet shoes making it inconvenient to walk. And I feel that these shoes are not slippery." Kui Hejin looked at Zhang Ziluo, a soft and affectionate look appeared in his cold eyes, seeming to melt her into the depths of his eyes. However, Zhang Ziluo did not notice the change in Kui Hejin's expression at this time. She was also very happy to see Mrs. Kui and Kui Hejin like these shoes. But Mrs. Kui and Kui Hejin only have 2 or 3 sets of clothes. The clothes they change and wash on weekdays are a bit white, and they are all made of coarse linen. She thought that she would buy 2 sets of clothes or some fabric and cut it to make it herself. After the family washed up, Zhang Ziluo took a bath with hot water, then went back to the house to get a pen to write and draw on paper. She first drew how to make the koi raincoat on paper. If parents find a palm tree and get some brown bark, they will understand how to make a koi raincoat at a glance. It means you may not be able to find bamboo. If you can find it, you can make an umbrella. Zhang Ziluo drew the appearance of a palm tree on the paper. Then write down the steps one by one, such as cutting the brown bark, rake the brown silk, twisting the thread and so on. Write down each step in words and then use pictures. It seems clear at a glance. In fact, if you can't find palm trees, you can also use straw, coir, thatch, etc. to make it. However, the koi raincoat made with such painstaking efforts can only protect a certain amount of wind and rain, and it is still easy to get the clothes wet, and it does not keep out the cold. The best material for the koi raincoat is brown, which is both defensive and cold-proof. While drawing, Zhang Ziluo suddenly thought of something. That means her father seems to be literate. I remember that when I was drawing the bellows drawings, I wrote down the method of making the bellows on it. She wrote a lot of words, and Dad could recognize them. And she and her younger brothers and sisters also followed their parents in reading and literacy since they were young. So her parents had no doubts about her ability to write and read. In the words of my parents, my grandpa once came from a poor scholar's family. My grandpa was literate and my mother was literate since she was a child. What my father knew was also learned from my mother. Little cuties, please vote for me. End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 95. Zhang Ziluo thought of some memories from her childhood and felt a little confused. But if you think about it carefully, there is nothing wrong with it, so Zhang Ziluo didn't think much about it. She continued to draw on paper the making of the koi raincoat. The koi raincoat is simple to make, but it takes a lot of effort. After making the collar, you need to sew up layers of brown leather. After sewing the first layer of brown leather, sew the second layer of brown leather. This requires a big needle and strong strength to sew. Anyway, Zhang Ziluo drew and wrote on the paper, and every step was very detailed. She would teach her parents how to sew a koi raincoat, or they could sew after looking at the drawings. Zhang Ziluo uses a small piece of charcoal to write and draw on paper very quickly, which is faster than writing with a calligraphy brush. Kui Hejin returned to the house after taking a shower and saw Zhang Ziluo sitting at the table writing something seriously. She looked so focused. The candles in the room were dim, and when the wind blew, they swayed slightly, illuminating her slender figure. At this moment, she was like the moonlight in the sky, pure and gentle. Just looking at Zhang Ziluo, Kui Hejin's ink-painted eyes filled with tiny glints. Like moonlight falling into a blue pool, causing gentle and shallow ripples. Kui Hejin approached slowly, his steps gentle, as if he was afraid of disturbing her concentration at this moment. He sat down gently at the table, picked up the book on the table and read it. When Zhang Ziluo was concentrating on something, she seemed to automatically block out everything around her. Time passed little by little. After the steps for the koi raincoat were written and drawn, she picked them up and put them aside. Following that, Zhang Ziluo took out the paper and started writing the steps for making an umbrella. Oil paper umbrellas are mainly made of bamboo. I don't know if there is bamboo here in Bezhu. Write down the steps first, and then you can make an umbrella directly when you find the bamboo. There is a lot of rain here in spring and summer, so there must be a lot of demand for umbrellas. It's just that most ordinary people are reluctant to buy umbrellas. Zhang Ziluo especially wants to have more umbrellas at home so that she can go out normally on rainy days. It rains heavily, and even if you just go to the yard, you will be soaked by the rain. The first step is to chop the bamboo. After cutting the bamboo is harvested and the outer skin of the bamboo is peeled off. Then split it in the middle to make the skeleton. Every step written by Zhang Ziluo is very detailed. There are bamboos drawn on the drawings and how to operate them. Also equipped with umbrella pole and switch. Some steps are very delicate work, and the dimensions must be measured, and it won't work if the dimensions are even slightly off. This is different from making a coir raincoat. The handwork for the coir raincoat is rough and does not require so much precision and measurement. But oil paper umbrellas cannot. The handle frames of oil paper umbrellas are all the same size and are very fine. To make it easier for her father to make oil paper umbrellas, Zhang Ziluo wrote the sizes on the paratrooper skeleton and other places. Fortunately, Dad sometimes does some carpentry work on weekdays, and there is a wooden ruler at home, which is convenient for measuring dimensions. Zhang Ziluo almost forgets time and place when writing and drawing. Kui Hejin has always been by her side. Occasionally, cold wind blew in through the cracks in the window, bringing with it a chill that made Kui Hejin feel like coughing. He suppressed it and didn't let himself cough out of fear of disturbing Zhang Ziluo. Zhang Ziluo didn't know about these. It wasn't until almost midnight that Zhang Ziluo took a breath of relaxation. Now the painting is done. Looking at the finished drawings, Zhang Ziluo was very happy, her eyebrows curled up and she smiled, her eyes curved into crescents, her long eyelashes fluttering gently, like feathers, as if they were brushing the heartstrings of others. At this moment, Kui Hejin coughed slightly, ahem. Hearing the sound, Zhang Ziluo noticed Kui Hejin next to her. Hey, you haven't slept yet. Zhang Ziluo felt that the time was very late, it was probably midnight. Well, I'm not sleepy. Zhang Ziluo was confused. Normally, she never saw Kui Hejin sleeping so late. She forgets time when she gets busy. In the modern world of the previous life, it was normal for her to stay up late while training and going on missions in the organization. You have to go to school tomorrow, let's go to bed early. It's okay. Mr. Li said that if it rains tomorrow morning, the school will have a holiday. Zhang Ziluo's expression changed. Listening to the sound of wind and rain outside, she thought that the school might really be on holiday tomorrow. That's good, you can take a rest at home. Speaking, Zhang Ziluo was still worried about Kui Hejin's cough, so she went to the stove to pour water. Zhang Ziluo's drawings and charcoal pens were randomly stacked on the table. At this moment, Kui Hejin looked over there and could see clearly. He looked at the writing and drawings on the paper, and a faint glint passed through his eyes. Zhang Ziluo poured some water over, handed it to Kui Hejin and said, "You will feel better if you drink some water first." She added a little more spiritual spring water to the water. Kui Hejin said warmly, "Okay." Kui Hejin looked at Zhang Ziluo, but the doubts in his heart were not asked after all. After the two of them lay down to sleep, Zhang Ziluo remembered that there were not enough medicinal materials at home. There are only enough medicinal materials at home to feed Kui Hejin and Mrs. Kui for 2 days, so they still have to go to the hospital to buy some medicine. During this period, I gave Kui Hejin some medicine to drink. He felt much better and didn't cough much anymore. Mrs. Kui also said that her body feels much lighter, she has more strength to do things, and her sleep is also better. It's just that Zhang Ziluo understood that if she wanted to fully restore Mrs. Kui's body, she would have to take medicine for 2 to 3 months. And Kui Hejin's body is more complicated than imagined. For the time being, his physical symptoms can only be suppressed. Only when a few key medicinal ingredients are found can he be fully nursed back to health. She understands that she still needs to earn more money, and some medicinal materials are really expensive. Also, She prescribed some medicinal materials for Zhuangxingen, but I don't know if he found them. She thought that if she could cure Zhuangxingen, she would have a lot of money in her hands. Zhang Ziluo felt her heart heavy. Thinking about these things, she couldn't fall asleep for a while. She simply entered the space directly. Last time the space was upgraded, there was already an acre and a half of fields. The previous acre of land was planted with leeks. However, some have cut 3 crops. Zhang Ziluo thought that there were a few more pie sellers in the town, and the chai box business was not as popular as it was at the beginning. After working all morning, I might only sell 1 or 200 units. It is incomparable to the hot scene at the beginning. Everyone who eats chai boxes every day will probably have enough of them and want to change their taste. Maybe I'll just buy a box of leeks once in a while. It's better to change the leek box business and do something else. After building a house, I probably won't have much money left. Zhang Ziluo said to herself, try making chili con carne, maybe you can make more money. Thinking of chili con carne, a light flashed in Zhang Ziluo's mind, and she was a little excited. This thing is cheap and can be stored for a long time. People who run boats stay on the boat for several days at a time, and some stay for half a month. The food is naturally simple. If you bring dry food and chili meat sauce, you can eat well on the boat. Thinking of this, Zhang Ziluo's eyes lit up. She increasingly felt that chili con carne would have a huge market and would not be easy to imitate. The taste is different even after it is made. And she also inspected the market and knew that the town only had soy sauce and bean paste, but no chili sauce at all, let alone chili con carne. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 96. Chapter 96 Feelings, Second Update. Zhang Ziluo's expression changed as she thought about the hot chili con carne sauce in modern times. She quickly went through the production steps in her mind. She also likes to study food in her modern spare time. Of course, she has also made chili con carne herself, so she is very familiar with making it. The key is chili and tempeh. Ziluo Zhang knows that you can't buy tempeh here, so she can make tempeh herself. To make tempeh, soybeans are needed. Soybeans are sold in towns, and there are also families in the village who grow some soybeans. If you keep making chili con carne, it's not cost effective to buy chili peppers and soybeans. It would be nice if you could grow your own. At this moment, Zhang Ziluo thought that she could grow more things by buying land. Last time she went to the county government, she only bought a homestead. She thought about building a house first, and if she wanted to buy land later, she would not have enough money, because hiring people to build a house, buying eaves tiles, and buying wood to hire people to make furniture would all require a lot of money. She was thinking about making more money in the past few days. As long as she could buy land by the end of March, she would not delay spring planting. It's only early March, so there's still time. Actually, if the space can be upgraded more and there is more land, you can grow a lot of things. Because growing things in space is not restricted by the environment or the season. Moreover, when planted in space, crops will grow much faster than outside, and the yield will be high. Some leeks have been cut for 3 crops and cannot be cut and eaten anymore. Chang Chiruo saw that some leeks have been cut for 3 crops, and the leeks that grow again are not good to eat unless they are used to save seeds for flowering. So she dug some out to make the ground clear. These leeks dug out are the leeks after 3 crops. She plans to feed them to the chickens, and no food can be wasted. She also left a small part, planning to let these leeks bloom and save seeds for use, and then continue to plant leeks in the space field. Even if you don't do the leek business, you can still grow it for home consumption. After working for a long time, a lot of land was cleared, and there was more than an acre of open space. When Zhang's Hiluo was resting, she went to the pool to drink some spiritual spring water. While she was thinking about planting something in the field, she saw the wooden house next to her. The wooden house seems to have remained unchanged. I remember Xylan said that after the space is upgraded, the wooden house will become larger. But she saw that the wooden house had not changed much. After the last space upgrade, I seem to have forgotten to take a look at the wooden house. Zhang's Hiluo said, stood up, and walked to the wooden house to take a look. There was nothing in the wooden house before. The chairs, tables, beds, and cabinets were all empty. Hey, what is this? Zhang's Hiluo suddenly saw a bag of things on the table. Zhang's Hiluo remembered that when she first came to the space wooden house, there was no such thing at all. Zhang's Hiluo walked over expectantly and couldn't wait to pick it up and look at it. Pepper, small red pepper. Zhang's Hiluo was excited after recognizing that these were pepper seeds. She was sure that there were no chili seeds in the wooden house before. But why is there something this time? Is it the effect of the upgrade? Why do chili peppers appear? Zhang's Hiluo had doubts in her heart. Could it be that chili peppers appeared in my mind because I thought I needed chili peppers? It really solves an urgent need. Zhang's Hiluo remembers that peppers can mature in about a month. But if you grow peppers in space, the time can be shortened. For example, leeks grow very quickly in space. Xiaolan, Xiaolan, Zhang's Hiluo called the space elf Xiaolan several times, but Xiaolan did not appear. Zhang's Hiluo guessed that it might be sleeping and resting. She no longer called Xiaolan, but went out of the space, quietly got out of bed, scooped a basin of water from the tank, mixed it with some warm water, and then brought it into the space. Put the pepper seeds in a basin of water and soak them. After germination, the seeds can be sown directly. After finishing such busy work, it was already past 1 o'clock in the morning, and Zhang's Hiluo had a good rest. Early the next morning, Kui Hejin woke up early. He looked at Zhang's Hiluo, who was sleeping a little unsteadily beside him, sighed softly, then stretched out his hand to tuck the corner of her bed, and then quietly got out of bed. After leaving the room door, Kui Hejin closed the door gently. At this time Mrs. Kui also woke up. She started busy making breakfast, and Kui Hejin helped her light the fire after washing. Mrs. Kui looked at the door and said, "It's rare for Hiluo to get some sleep. Let's keep the noise down so as not to disturb her." Even when she spoke, Mrs. Kui's voice was very quiet. Kui Hejin whispered, "Well, she slept very late last night." Mrs. Kui couldn't help but relax when pouring water, and said in a lower voice, "She has been busy with other things during this period and doing business, so she is exhausted. Even if she is very tired, she doesn't say anything. No matter how late she goes to bed, she will get up early and get busy. It happens to be a rainy day, so let her rest at home. It's just that Hiluo is fine. Don't tire her out by tossing her." Kui Hejin pinched the center of his brow with his hand, sighed and said helplessly, "Mom, don't worry, I know what's going on." He knew that his mother had misunderstood something. Mother also didn't know that he and Hiluo had not consummated their marriage at all. But Kui Hejin didn't explain much because he was afraid that his mother would worry and overthink it. Mrs. Kui still said uneasy, "But you should pay more attention. Hiluo is a strong child. Even if she feels uncomfortable, she may not say anything. This person is still different in his husband's family and his mother's family. She can be weak and coquettish in front of her parents, but in her husband's family, even if she feels uncomfortable, she may be embarrassed to say it. Mom is someone who has been through this and knows that feeling best. In front of your mother, you can say some things freely, but in front of your mother-in-law, you will still be more restrained. No matter how nice your mother-in-law is, she can't be as comfortable as you are with your own mother. Mrs. Kui understands this feeling. Besides, Girls may not be embarrassed to say certain things to their husbands, so they should be more careful about themselves. Kui Hejin's expression moved and he nodded, yes. Ms. Kui knew that her son had listened to her words. When breakfast was ready and ready to be eaten, Ms. Kui waited for a while and saw that Zhang Ziluo didn't come out, so she said, I'll have breakfast first, and you let Ziluo sleep a little longer. Yesterday afternoon I told your uncle Lijhan and Aunt Zhu about building a house. We agreed to go to Yanglia village today to talk to the carpenter and ask him for help when the time comes to build the house. Kui Hejin said, Mom, it's still raining outside, let me go. Wherever you can go, I've made an agreement with your uncle Li Zheng and Aunt Zhu. It will be more comfortable for everyone if I come to communicate. Besides, it happens to be a rainy day and your school is on vacation, so you can take care of Ziluo at home. Ms. Kui insisted, but Kui Hejin had nothing to do. Fortunately, Kui Hejin brought an umbrella back from the school, and Ms. Kui happened to go out with an umbrella. The rain was not heavy. Ms. Kui had breakfast, wore the straw sandals Ziluo gave her yesterday, and walked into the rain and fog with an umbrella. Kui Hejin didn't eat breakfast, thinking about eating it together when Ziluo woke up. Until mid-morning, Zhang Ziluo still didn't wake up. Kui Hejin looked at the sky and his expression became condensed. He walked into the house and came to the bedside. He looked at Zhang Ziluo, whose expression was not quite right, and reached out to touch her forehead, feeling that the temperature on her body was a little cold. Kui Hejin's face changed, and she called Zhang Ziluo in a low voice, Ziluo, wake up. End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 97. Chapter 97 Careful and Thoughtful, Third Update. Kui Hejin gently stretched out his hand to tidy up a few strands of hair around Zhang Ziluo's face, took out a clean towel and gently wiped the cold sweat on her forehead. Kui Hejin's picturesque eyebrows were tightly knitted, with a worried look in her eyes that could no longer be concealed. Ziluo, wake up. Be good, wake up. Ziluo. Although Kui Hejin was anxious to wake up Zhang Ziluo and ask her what was wrong, his voice was still gentle and soft, with a soothing aura. Zhang Ziluo had a very deep and uncomfortable sleep. My body is very cold, my head feels a little dizzy, and my stomach hurts a little. Probably wanted to wake up, but fell into a deep sleep and did not wake up. She slowly opened her eyes when she heard the clear and familiar voice in her ears. As soon as she opened her eyes, Zhang Ziluo met Kui Hejin's picturesque and worried eyes. There is a lingering color there, and there is a thrilling and stunning charm. Zhang Ziluo's eyes trembled fiercely. Kui Hejin breathed a sigh of relief when he saw her waking up, and whispered, is there something wrong with your body? Zhang Ziluo, who had just woken up, her eyes were still a little hazy. She felt her body and said softly, it seems a little uncomfortable and she has no strength. At this time, Zhang Ziluo's voice had a sweet and soft voice, which was overwhelming to other people's ears. Kui Hejin felt that his heart suddenly felt soft. Are you tired? Kui Hejin has no experience in taking care of girls, so he really doesn't know how to take care of her now. Zhang Ziluo shook her head and tried to get up. But Nei's body was weak. Kui Hejin reached out his hand and hurriedly helped her up. Zhang Ziluo had no strength and almost leaned on Kui Hejin's arms. You can smell his nice and refreshing breath. Smelling this faint scent, she seemed to come back to her senses. Kui Hejin hugged Zhang Ziluo and helped her sit up, and then put a pillow behind her to make it easier for her to lean on. With this movement, Zhang Ziluo suddenly realized something and her stomach hurt. This strange yet familiar feeling suddenly reminded her of something. Zhang Ziluo was stunned for a long time. She looked at Kui Hejin and didn't know how to talk to him about this. Kui Hejin was very patient and asked in a low voice, what's wrong, but what do you want to eat? Is it cold? I'll get you a quilt again. Seeing Kui Hejin was about to get off the ground, Zhang Ziluo gently grabbed Kui Hejin's sleeve. She now has no strength in her whole body and is unable to even get off the ground by herself. Kui Hejin watched Zhang Ziluo tug on her sleeves, looked down at her, and saw that her eyelashes were trembling slightly, with a watery color, her cheeks were red, her teeth were biting lightly, and she seemed to be hesitant to speak. At this moment, Zhang Ziluo's black hair was spread out, like cloud satin, like moonlight pouring down. The beautiful little face is extremely pale. She looked at him so weakly and weakly, like a delicate lotus, and when her eyes looked at him, they were like the starry sky washed by water, clear and moving. His eyes blinked slightly, but it was like the stars under his eyes fell into the lake of his heart. Kui Hejin felt a sense of pity in his heart. What's wrong? Zhang Ziluo said softly, is mom at home? Can you ask mom to come over? As she spoke, she lowered her head to cover up the unnatural look on her face. Kui Hejin sighed softly and said, Mom has gone out and is not at home. If you need anything, just tell me and I will take care of you. Zhang Ziluo covered her face with her hands and struggled for a while, but if she didn't say anything, her stomach hurt so badly that she was worried that it would stain the mattress and quilt, so she could only whisper, I'm having my period. After saying this, Zhang Ziluo's face heated up. Kui Hejin realized something and his ears turned red. He hurried out of the house. Zhang Ziluo was stunned when she saw Kui Hejin running away. She blinked her eyes. Didn't she say she was taking care of her? As for anyone shyer than her? She is a woman, but she doesn't think anything of it. After a while, Kui Hejin poured a cup of hot water in, handed it to Zhang Ziluo, and said, drink some water first, and I'll help you prepare things. Zhang Ziluo nodded. She stretched out her hand to take the bowl, but her hands were too weak to hold it firmly. Fortunately, Kui Hejin kept holding the bowl. Looking at her appearance, he sighed, I'll feed you. Speaking, Kui Hejin put a bowl to Zhang Ziluo's lips and fed her hot water. After drinking some hot water, Zhang Ziluo frowned fiercely. She was enduring the pain. Her face was getting paler. Kui Hejin realized something and said, you take a rest first, I'll be back soon. Before Zhang Ziluo could say anything, Kui Hejin had already gone out. There was no umbrella at home, so he went out in the rain. Then he knocked on the neighbor's door. Niu said in a loud voice, who is knocking on the door on a rainy day? Although she was reluctant, Ms. Niu still opened the door. When she saw Kui Hejin standing in the rain at the door, she was shocked. Kui, young master Kui, what's wrong with you? Kui Hejin whispered, Aunt Niu, can you borrow a piece of brown sugar? Ever since I stopped making brown sugar at home, I have lost all brown sugar. Kui Hejin vaguely knew that drinking some brown sugar would be good. Mr. Niu suddenly understood and said with a smile, oh, it's a good thing that I feel sorry for my daughter-in-law. Ziluo is 15 years old, come on. You are husband and wife, there is nothing to be embarrassed about. But as a woman, it's always uncomfortable to come here. She has no strength and is weak. If you care more and take care of her, she will feel better. I still have clothes to clean. Niu went in and took 2 pieces of brown sugar and handed them to Kui Hejin. He also took an oil paper and wrapped something in it and said, give this to your wife, she will use it. As he spoke, he also talked about some precautions. Niu's son is already the eldest. She usually loves to gossip and is thick-skinned. There is nothing she can't say. People are not bad either. Only women understand how difficult it is for women. Seeing that Kui Hejin loves his wife, she is also willing to say a few more things to pay attention to. Kui Hejin's face turned red. Fortunately, it was raining and dark, and it would be better if she covered her face. Thank you, Aunt Niu. Why are you being polite to Aunt Niu like me? It's raining. Go back quickly. Your wife is a good woman. Go back and take good care of her. After returning home, Kui Hejin didn't bother to wipe the water drops on her body and soaked Zhang Ziluo in hot water with brown sugar water. Then he handed the oil paper bag to Zhang Ziluo and said, "This is from Aunt Niu." Zhang Ziluo's face changed when she saw that water was still dripping from his body. "Did you go out in the rain?" "Well, it doesn't matter, this little rain is nothing." Zhang Ziluo said anxiously, "Quickly wipe your hair and change into clean clothes." "Okay, let me get you some clothes first." Zhang Ziluo understood his attentiveness, and she whispered, "Please help me get the pile of clothes in the lower left corner of the cabinet. It is wrapped in underwear so that she can change easily." "Good." Kui Hejin went to the cabinet and got it. "I'll go out first." Kui Hejin was worried that it would be inconvenient for Zhang Ziluo to change clothes while she was in the house, so he gave her some space. Zhang Ziluo felt warm in her heart. He was always so attentive and considerate. End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 98. After Zhang Ziluo changed in the house, she drank the brown sugar water Kui Hejin made and felt much better. After a while, she felt that her body was getting warmer and she had some strength, and then she slowly breathed a sigh of relief. Zhang Ziluo went out from the house to wash up. Kui Hejin looked at her and said softly, "You are not feeling well, please rest more." At this time, Kui Hejin had already changed out of his wet clothes, and his hair was half dry. Zhang Ziluo felt that she was not so pretentious, so she whispered, "It's okay, this will be much better. With a little strength, she can move. I'll take a shower and have some breakfast, it will feel better. Eat something to replenish energy and your body may feel better." Kui Hejin understood what Zhang Ziluo meant. He then helped scoop out water in the basin, and also scooped out a ladle of hot water from the pot and mixed it with it. He saw that the water temperature was just right before letting Zhang Ziluo wash her hands with water. While Zhang Ziluo was washing up, Kui Hejin took out the hot breakfast from the pot, brought it to the dining table, and placed the bowls and chopsticks. After Zhang Ziluo washed up, she looked at the steaming breakfast on the table and felt a little warm in her heart. She is actually not a very hypocritical person, but when people feel uncomfortable, their hearts are always more fragile than usual. At this time, someone was taking care of her carefully, and a wave of warmth surged through her heart. Kui Hejin saw Zhang Ziluo sitting down, so he scooped a bowl of mushroom and egg drop soup for her, and wrapped a piece of scallion pancake in clean gauze and handed it to her so that she could eat it. "It's a bit hot, eat slowly." Zhang Ziluo blinked her eyes, nodded obediently and said, "Okay." Kui Hejin's eyebrows softened when he saw her acting so well behaved. He also sat down to eat together. Zhang Ziluo looked at his movements, then looked at the bowls and chopsticks in front of him, and couldn't help but ask, "You haven't had breakfast either?" Although Kui Hejin said nothing, Zhang Ziluo guessed that he was waiting for her to have dinner together. It's already midnight now. According to modern time, it's probably past 9 o'clock. On weekdays, Kui Hejin usually gets up at 5 or 6 o'clock and has breakfast at 6 o'clock. Seeing Zhang Ziluo not eating, she just looked at him with eyes full of autumn water. Her eyes are very smart, and when she focuses on a person, she seems to be able to speak. Just by looking at Zhang Ziluo, Kui Hejin understood what she was thinking. He put down his hand and explained softly, "Don't worry, I'm not hungry." Zhang Ziluo pursed her lips and whispered, "I'm not feeling well today. If I get up late next time, just eat first." "Okay." Kui Hejin did not dwell on this issue with Zhang Ziluo. "Let's eat first, it will get cold after a while." Zhang Ziluo nodded and then started to eat. After eating, Zhang Ziluo's body felt less painful, perhaps because she had replenished energy. At this moment, the rain outside also stopped. Zhang Ziluo thought for a while and said, "The rain has stopped. I want to go to the town." Kui Hejin takes such good care of her, so it's best for her to tell him where she is going and what she is going to do. Kui Hejin usually seems to be very talkative, but at this time he was very stubborn and said, "You have a good rest at home these days. If you have anything to do, I will help you. If you need to go to town, I will arrange it. At any rate, Zhang Ziluo will not be tired these days." Zhang Ziluo actually wanted to buy meat and make chili con carne. I also want to see how the braised meat business at Lin Zuz's meat stall is going. As soon as she felt better, she became restless. However, she still couldn't tell Kui Hejin to do all this for her. "It's okay, I just wanted to go to the town to have a look after the rain stopped." Since she couldn't go to town, Zhang Ziluo thought about helping to make lunch. But no matter what she did, Kui Hejin wouldn't let her do it. He only asked her to go back to the house and lie down on the bed to rest. Zhang Ziluo blinked her eyes and looked at Kui Hejin, and said softly and innocently, "I'm really not that squeamish, I have strength." Zhang Ziluo didn't even realize that at this moment she was acting like a baby to Kui Hejin. Her voice was soft and waxy, and most people couldn't resist it. Kui Hejin looked at her with eyes that were a bit overwhelming, and his heart softened into a puddle of blue water, and he couldn't help but want to indulge her. But thinking about her pain and discomfort in the morning, and what Aunt Niu said next door, he could only sigh coldly, "Be good, be obedient, what you have to do now is to have a good rest. It's easy to have a stomachache if you don't. And you can't get into cold water either." Kui Hejin poured water for Zhang Ziluo to drink, and the drink was also hot water. When it was almost lunchtime, Kui Hejin asked her softly, "Whatever you want to eat for lunch, I'll make it." Zhang Ziluo has never seen Kui Hejin cooking. On weekdays, he would at most help light the fire, or help with whatever she and Mrs. Kui were doing. "Won't mother come back at noon?" Kui Hejin said, "My mother said before going out that she would probably come back in the afternoon." Zhang Ziluo thought for a while and said, "Why don't you make noodles? Can you cook noodles? There are ready-made noodles at home. Mrs. Kui rolled them out a few days ago. She rolled out some more, dried them in the sun and put them away. This way, when you want to eat noodles again, you don't have to roll and cut them, you can just take out the dried noodles and cook them." Zhang Ziluo thought that Kui Hejin might not be good at cooking, but cooking noodles was easy. Kui Hejin looked at Zhang Ziluo with a half smile, and looked at her pale little face. He stretched out his hand and gently touched her hair and said, "Don't worry, I can still cook noodles." Even when cooking noodles, Kui Hejin's every move and gesture carries the elegance cultivated by a descendant of an aristocratic family. After Kui Hejin actually cooked the noodles, Zhang Ziluo couldn't help but be surprised. Because Kui Hejin brought 2 bowls of noodles to the table, with poached eggs and some green vegetables on them, which made people appetizing. Because of the surprise, Zhang Ziluo's eyes, as clean as glass, glowed with brilliance, as if layers of sunshine were spread out all at once, shining into Kui Hejin's heart. Kui Hejin's picturesque and exquisite eyes, with a smile as clear as water, said as gracefully as jade, "Have a taste." Speaking, Kui Hejin handed the chopsticks in his hand to Zhang Ziluo. However, he still reminded, "It's a little hot." Zhang Ziluo said, "It's okay, you won't be afraid of burning noodles when you eat them. When I was on missions in the past, I didn't care about these things." Seeing that she was really anxious to eat, Kui Hejin still whispered, "Wait a moment." Kui Hejin went to get a bowl and picked out a chopstick from the big bowl of noodles. "It will cool down quickly and won't burn." Zhang Ziluo sighed in her heart, if this person really wanted to take care of someone, he would be really careful and gentle. As time passed, her heart couldn't resist. Zhang Ziluo picked up the noodles from a small bowl, blew on them, and ate them into her mouth. She seemed very satisfied with the taste, and her eyes turned into crescents. "It's delicious. As long as it tastes good, eat more." Zhang Ziluo ate a few mouthfuls of noodles and drank a mouthful of noodle soup, and she felt her stomach felt really comfortable. She seemed to have thought of something and blinked at him with doubtful eyes. Kui Hejin asked patiently and good-naturedly, "What's wrong? You used to be the heir to the Duke's palace. Aren't you a gentleman who cooks far away? Will you still learn to cook?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Space Doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Candy. Chapter 99. Chapter 99 Flirting, First Update. Kui Hejin's picturesque eyebrows narrowed, and he whispered, "This is the first time to cook and make noodles. I have indeed never cooked in the Duke's mansion before." At that time, as the eldest son of the Duke's family, he shouldered responsibilities, was good at both civil and military affairs, and followed the family's education methods. He had never cooked before. Even when he came to Donghe village, Kui Hejin could only light a fire to help heat up the food, but did not formally cook. Hearing these words, Zhang Ziluo's hand movements paused. When I thought that this was Kui Hejin's first time cooking, and it was cooked for her, I felt an indescribable feeling in my heart. The corners of my mouth couldn't help but turn up. It's delicious the first time I make it. Zhang Ziluo didn't mean to praise Kui Hejin, but he cooked the noodles at just the right temperature. The noodles tasted chewy and salty. The noodle soup tastes delicious too. Perhaps because of what Kui Hejin said just now, Zhang Ziluo has more appetite. A big bowl of noodles and just ate it? After eating, she looked satisfied. At first, my body felt a little cold, but after eating noodles and drinking noodle soup, my body felt warm and cozy. Kui Hejin looked at her mouth with water stains and a smile, looking fresh, soft, beautiful and moving. He couldn't help but reach out and wipe her with his fingertips. Zhang Ziluo was so suddenly rubbed by Kui Hejin that the corners of her mouth became numb and her heart skipped a beat. She looked at Kui Hejin with wide eyes, forgetting to breathe and react. Kui Hejin retracted his finger, his eyes moved, but he said nothing. Zhang Ziluo pursed her lips and her mouth felt dry for a moment. Her eyes moved, trying to find a topic to cover up her discomfort at this moment. "That noodle is delicious. Well, if you want to eat it, I'll make it for you next time." From the beginning to the end, Kui Hejin looked cool and cold. Zhang Ziluo sighed in her heart, this person can enchant people even if he is sitting or standing without speaking. Let alone being gentle and sultry. She couldn't resist it at all. The most fatal thing is to flirt with someone unintentionally. Not to mention that she still had the memory of her previous life, so she was not on guard against him. No, Zhang Ziluo wants to lure her back. She turned her eyes and looked at Kui Hejin softly, "Husband." The final sound of each call is soft. "Well, what's wrong?" Kui Hejin's voice also has texture, pure and beautiful. "I feel a little sick in my stomach." When Kui Hejin heard this, his expression changed and he quickly stood up. "Does your stomach hurt?" Zhang Ziluo shook her head and said softly, "It's okay, I just want to rest, but I don't have the strength." Speaking, he looked at Kui Hejin with expectant eyes. Kui Hejin looked at her eagerness to try, and felt a little dumbfounded. It wasn't just a stomachache, and he breathed a sigh of relief. He followed her words and said, "What should we do?" Zhang Ziluo's heartbeat was a little fast for a moment. Seeing how good-tempered he was, she climbed up the pole and said tentatively, "Then can you carry me back to the house?" I thought Kui Hejin would refuse and say something. Unexpectedly, he just stood up, came to her, bent down and gently picked her up. Zhang Ziluo's head buzzed, and she reflexively stretched out her arms to hug his neck. She didn't come back to her senses until Kui Hejin carried her into the house, put her on the bed, and took off her shoes. Kui Hejin whispered, "You should lie down for a while and have a good rest. Call me if you need anything." Zhang Ziluo couldn't help but feel moved at this moment, so she nodded obediently and said, "Yeah, yeah." Kui Hejin's eyes were filled with a look of affection, and he tucked a strand of hair from her face behind her ear. "Be good." After letting Zhang Ziluo rest, Kui Hejin left the room and went to clean up the dishes. After lunch, it started to rain lightly again. Hearing the sound of rain outside, Zhang Ziluo felt a little sleepy. She finds it easy to be hypnotized by listening to the rain in the mountain countryside. Perhaps her body was really weak, so she fell asleep after a while. Kui Hejin had very good ears, and there was no sound in the house. When he entered the house, he saw Zhang Ziluo sleeping. However, the quilt was not covered properly, so Kui Hejin gently tucked her in without disturbing Zhang Ziluo. At mid-afternoon, Mrs. Kui came back with an umbrella. "Mom, you are back." Mrs. Kui said with a smile on her face, "I'm back. We had lunch at your Aunt Zhu's brother's house at noon. Things to build the house this time have been arranged. Your Aunt Zhu's eldest brother is a mason, and Yang Yong from Yanglia village is a carpenter. They will all come and help build the house. Then you, Uncle Li Zhang, will help you manage it. Please ask the villagers and the villagers from Xingshan village next door for help. If there are more people and work early, it should be completed in half a month. Although the conditions in Donghe village are poor, it has a large population and a large number of strong laborers. If everyone helps together, the house can be built quickly. Build it early and it won't delay everyone's farming. In the next half month, everyone will be busy with farming one after another." Uncle Li Zhang said, "If you don't have to pay 10 cents a day for food, I'm sure you guys are willing to come over and help with the work. Your Aunt Zhu's natal family is from Xingshan village, and her uncle is Li Zhang from Xingshan village. With your uncle Li Zhang and Aunt Zhu coming forward, many things will go well. Actually, your father-in-law's family is the most prestigious in Xingshan village." Xingshan village was originally a small village with only a few families named Zhu. Later, those people were all people who fled the famine. These people all listened to your father-in-law, but now it's still you. Zhu, my uncle, is upright, and he is in charge of things. As soon as I heard that we were asking people to build a house, Zhu Lijhan told me that because of our relationship with your father-in-law, the people in their village were willing to help regardless of wages or food. Mrs. Kui talked about many things to Kui Hejin. In fact, Mrs. Kui really doesn't want to trouble the Zhang family, but their relationship with the Zhang family is known to everyone in the two villages. In fact, it is also because the Zhang family is very prestigious in Xinghua village, and Uncle Zhu is upright. If anything happens in the village, the Zhu family will discuss it with Zhang Xiangchuan. The two families are close, so the Zhu family and the Ye family are also Zhang Ziluo's. I have a very good relationship with my mother." Zhang Ziluo woke up when she heard the sound. She came out of the house and saw Mrs. Kui and said, "Mom, you are back." Mrs. Kui felt something was wrong as soon as she saw Zhang Ziluo's face. Her expression changed and she said nervously, "Ziluo, are you sick, or are you feeling unwell somewhere?" Zhang Ziluo shook her head and said, "It's okay, Mom, it's just a special moment for me. I'll be fine in 2 days." Mrs. Kui understood as soon as she heard this, "Hejin has taken good care of you." Zhang Ziluo hurriedly helped to explain, "Mom, thanks to my husband taking care of me, he still cooked lunch. I am in much better health now." After hearing this, Mrs. Kui felt relieved. The family sat down and had a conversation. When they learned that the arrangements for building a house had been made, Zhang Ziluo breathed a sigh of relief. "Let's take out the copper coins first and ask Uncle Li Zhang to help count them. Starting from building the house, we will settle the wages on the same day every day, so that everyone can feel more at ease when working. If you don't care about food and wait for the house to be built and wages paid, many people will feel uneasy. As wages are settled every day, everyone is motivated to work." End of this chapter. The space doctor became the favorite of the exiled powerful minister. Author, Fenyuan Kandi. Chapter 100. Mrs. Kui and Kui Hejin also think this is appropriate. The three people discussed the matter of building a house and finalized some details. Zhang Ziluo said, "Mom, Uncle Li Zheng and the others can help with the arrangements. Let's send something over alone later." Mrs. Kui smiled and said, "This is nature, this is human nature." Mrs. Kui felt that during the discussion just now, Zhang Ziluo thought about things very carefully. Kui Hejin doesn't talk much. Usually when he needs to add something, he will say a few words. Everyone supports Zhang Ziluo's idea. It stopped raining the next day, so Kui Hejin went to the school to teach. As for Mrs. Kui, she communicated with Li Zheng about building a house. Whatever Zhang Ziluo wanted to help with, both Mrs. Kui and Kui Hejin insisted that she take a good rest at home and not work or let the cold wind blow in these days. It has been a bit cold even though it has rained. Li Zheng also called a meeting with the villagers after the rain stopped the next day and told the villagers that the Kui family was building a house. They did not need to pay for food, but only paid 10 cents a day for a labor force. Most of the villagers took their own stools and sat under the old locust tree to listen to Li Zheng's conversation. If there are important things in the village, they will be discussed here. Sometimes there are many things to do and just standing is tiring. After a long time, everyone will get used to bringing a bench from home, so that sitting cannot be tiring. What, 10 cents a day, is it real or fake? When a woman heard this, she became excited and shouted. Everyone also looked at Li Zheng. "That's right, Brother Joe, can the Kui family really afford the salary?" "That's right, in fact, everyone in a village knows everything, so it's okay to go and help when you're not busy. Actually, they are in charge of the food. No one will say anything about whether the management is good or not. 10 cents a day, working for half a month, that's more than 100 cents. To the villagers, more than 100 yuan is really a lot of money. With this money, those who don't have enough food at home can buy some food to eat so that they won't go hungry. Whenever you buy something on weekdays, you don't have to dig around so much. It is normal for the Kui family to build a house without having a house. It's good to have a salary, that's better than taking care of the food. Yes, we all live in our own village anyway. It's like going home to eat, it's like walking a few steps to a village after eating, it's like going back to work. Most people in the village cannot afford wages, so they help each other with everything and just take care of the food. Anyway, everyone is idle, so there is still room for some effort." Everyone expressed their doubts in a hurry. Li was waiting for everyone to finish talking, and then explained, "The Kui family is a serious family, and they don't talk in vain. A labor force is worth 10 cents a day, and you will be given one after the work is done that day. Don't worry." The Kui family went to town to sell some things some time ago and had some copper coins in their hands. In order to thank everyone for helping them before, they said they would pay them according to their wages, and they also wanted to help everyone. Everyone knows that there is no shortage of labor right now during the off-season. It's hard to find a job. People may not even use you to move things at the dock. We work for our own village, so we can't be lazy. Although I know that the people in the village are all good, I still have to remind them when it is time to do so. This is natural. Even if we don't pay wages, everyone should still put in their efforts." Just thinking that the Kui family knew how good they were and remembered everyone's help made them feel very happy. However, some women were a little surprised when they heard that the Kui family had made money by selling some things, and they also wanted to make money. Some of them wanted to go back and ask the Kui family. At any rate, after Li Zheng finished talking to the villagers, he started counting the people. The strong labor force in the village signed up, and Li Zheng counted the number of people. Including some 15-year-old boys who also have a lot of energy, everyone also wants to make 10 cents. Li Zheng saw that they were indeed able to work and had strength, so he also joined them. Anyway, Zhang Ziluo said, the more people the better, as long as they have the ability to work and don't hold them back. Then there are some people from Xingshan village. After discussion, construction started the next day. Zhang Ziluo also rested at home for 4 days, settling hundreds of coins every day. Zhang Ziluo felt a little distressed when she took it out. She became more and more anxious to do business and make money. Mom, I'm in good health and I really don't need any more rest. Building a house now costs at least a few hundred cents per day, and it takes 10 taels of silver to build it for half a month. We must quickly find a way to do some business to make money. Ziluo, your health is the most important thing. He Jin told me before going to school that I can't let you be tired. Mom, I know, I'm really well now, and I can't stay idle. Seeing that Zhang Ziluo was very insistent, Mrs. Kui relaxed when she saw that her complexion had improved and that she indeed had strength. Zhang Ziluo had lunch that day and went to town with a backpack on her back in the afternoon. Mother and Kui Hejin didn't have enough medicinal materials, so Zhang Ziluo had no choice but to go to the medical clinic to buy them. When Zhang Ziluo went to Xinglan Medical Clinic, the doctors and servants at the medical clinic recognized her when they looked at her. Miss Zhang is here. Our young master has personally taken people to various places to find medicinal materials, and he is not in the store. Zhang Ziluo explained, I'm not here to see your young master. I'm here to get medicine. Zhang Ziluo took out 2 prescriptions and handed them to the medicine boy. They are all common medicinal materials. She couldn't afford some precious medicinal materials for the time being, so she could only improve the prescriptions. Although medicinal materials are usually not expensive, they can also warm and nourish the bodies of Mrs. Kui and Kui Hejin. Just to grab 3 sets of medicine, it costs 7 taels of silver. Zhang Ziluo had to lament that the medicinal materials were really expensive. No wonder the people in the village have headaches and fever. They use earthwork to treat the disease and resist it if they can. They rarely come to the medical center to get medicine. Looks like we still have to seize the time to make money quickly. Then, she went to buy some seasonings and spices, spent more than 1 or 2 silver, and then went to Lin Zuzu's meat stall. As soon as she saw Zhang Ziluo, Lin Zuzu immediately became energetic and said, "Oh, Sister Zhang, you are finally here. If you don't come, I will go to your house to visit you after I close the stall. You don't know how many people have come to my meat stall to buy braised food these past few days, but there is no braised food. Many people have complained. I think they may have gone elsewhere to buy brine. A few old customers told me that although the prices bought elsewhere were cheaper, the taste was different, and the braised soup tasted very different, so they would rather buy it here. I asked several times when have. If Brother Joe from your village hadn't said that your family was busy building a house, I would have thought that you would no longer be in the braised food business." Lin Zuzu was not very energetic when she was playing eggplant with Shuang. When she saw Zhang Ziluo coming, she instantly became energetic. Chattered for quite a while. By the way, I paid Zhang Ziluo the money from selling braised meat that day. Zhang Ziluo received more than 1,000 yuan. By the way, I also know some of the market trends these days.